About a month ago, I had an editorial about the drastic and dire need to defund Radio New Zealand. In my view, this is an enclave run by liberal lefties, aided and abetted by the New Zealand taxpayer unwittingly, but compulsorily, to undermine and sabotage any centre-right administration, and obviously this one in particular. From day one, since the election of this government, Radio New Zealand News, have determinedly decided that they are opposed to everything, and they have given deliberate, enhanced, and often hyperbolic coverage of any critic of government policy or government policies or ministers or anything that emanates from the centre-right administration that we elected 18 months ago. Now, I wouldn't mind if they were privately funded, if they were Stuff, for example, run by maybe left liberals and at the same time paid for by themselves, by the people who subscribe to them, and by those who enjoin themselves with their services. Fair enough. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But Radio New Zealand's a totally different ballgame. Radio New Zealand is funded by us. And essentially, it's to undermine our democratic choice and our democratically elected government. I mean, that's the practical effect of it all. As I talk to you now, there are a series of bilaterals that are happening, which is just a funny word, between government departments and between Treasury and the Minister of Finance as they put together the budget that will be delivered, I think it's next month, yes it must be, by the Finance Minister Nicola Willis. And can I just say to Nicola Willis and to this government, it is time now to defund Radio New Zealand News. End of story. Defund them. All right, it's all over. They were given an extraordinary boost in income by the Labour government in 2023-24 budget. I wonder why. Which took them from $42 million worth of taxpayer money to $66.6 million of taxpayers' money, which is their current budget. They are enormously privileged in the sense that they are the one media organisation in New Zealand that is wholly and completely immune from the vicissitudes of economic change. Yesterday, during this week, their Radio New Zealand chair, Jim Mather, and I'll come to him in a second, stood in front of Parliament and said, wow, he says, the combination of digital change, audience fragmentation, and economic headwinds make for a volatile cocktail. Yes, they do. For all other media in this country and in most Western nations grappling with change, a lack of trust in many cases, a lack of audience, and also an economy that's not travelling so well. And every other aspect of the New Zealand media are having to deal with that, and we've seen the consequences. Except Radio New Zealand, who ironically had their budget boosted by 50% by an outgoing Labour government. And then they got a board given to them by an outgoing broadcasting minister, Willie Jackson, that includes the current chair, Jim Mather, whose primary claim to fame is that he was the chief executive of Maori television, and that's about it, basically. He now runs his own he is the managing director of his own company called Mather Solutions, a strategic Maori development consultancy, and he was reappointed by Willie Jackson just months before the election, along with the board, Irene Gardner, Michael O'Donnell, Jane Wrightson, and another Maori broadcaster, Jason Aki. Now, you can't imagine, can you, out of that board just quietly, that you're likely to get much of a pro-government sentiment when it's Labour that gave you the money, Labour that gave you the directive. In fact, Willie Jackson, in announcing Jim Mather's reappointment, said, quote, "The government supports Radio New Zealand and TVNZ in being world leaders," that's a joke, "in providing trusted news and stories," that element trust there, that reflect our unique way of life and culture, and these appointments will drive that process, he said. What he really meant was that they'll do our bidding, and certainly our ideological bidding along with that. Now, in the time that Radio New Zealand got this money, just listen to this. And the time that you're facing mass layoffs against staff, as as all other media companies in this country have to grapple with reality, Radio New Zealand's increased its staff from 309 full-time to 347. What? Isn't the public sector meant to be shrinking? Nope, not Radio New Zealand. 309 full-time staff to 347. Yes, but the most incredible thing is that those earning over $100,000 a year have also increased at Radio New Zealand from 107 2 years ago to 145. It is a privileged, they call themselves privileged. They're not privileged. They're luxurious. They're self-indulgent. They are left-wing tossers. And there's not a conservative voice you'll ever hear on Radio New Zealand, on its commentations, on its news stories, on its columnists, as its presenters. There aren't any conservatives anywhere. There is no balance in their programs at all. It is just a left-wing enclave, sucking up $66.6 million worth of taxpayers' money with no competition from anybody, losing on the only listenership surveys they're doing, losing listenership. So I think it's now the fourth most listened radio station in New Zealand. God, and no competition at all, with a complete left-wing and liberal bias. Can I say, please, to Media Minister Paul Goldsmith and to Finance Minister Nicola Willis, if you want to save money, if you want to put that money into Gisborne Hospital, which is really has a lack of obstetricians and gynecologists, Whakatane, where you're in danger if you give birth here at the moment, and maternity services in collapse, if you really want to give some money to that, to deal with real pressing needs for real people, can I just suggest, there's your first place to go. It is time to defund Radio New Zealand, get rid of them. They don't offer any perspective except a biased one, and they chomp up almost $67 million and support a bunch of people that even describe themselves as privileged. I describe them as self-indulgent. In fact, I've got a lot of words that could describe them, but I don't think any of them suitable at this time of the day for national radio. Your thoughts